Shalom from Israel to all of the Daystar viewers around the world. I'm Moshe Bar Tzvi, the producer and founder of Israel Now News. We at Israel Now News are dedicated to bringing you the full story and the truth about Israel from Israel. It's written in the Holy Bible when David said in Psalm 25:5, "Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long." And God says in Zechariah 8:16, "These are the things that you shall do. Speak out the truth to one another. Judge with truth and judgment to peace in your gates. And always search for the truth, and the truth shall set you free." John 8:31. I hope you enjoyed the program. God bless you from Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.
Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rome.
And I'm Aaron Viner.
In our top story, the conflict between Israel and Hamas continues to simmer and at times boils over as the terrorist organization repeatedly violates ceasefires. Hopes for a long-term truce were shattered when Hamas launched scores of missiles at Israeli towns and cities. Israel responded by bombing strategic targets in Gaza, including the home of top Hamas commander Mohammed Deif, and by calling up 2,000 reservists. This comes as an unnamed senior Israeli official has confirmed that a shipment of Hellfire missiles to Israel was put on hold amid worsening ties between Washington and Jerusalem. This follows a Wall Street Journal report that the White House and the U.S. State Department were angered to learn that the Pentagon was supplying Israel with weapons without the Obama administration's knowledge. However, a U.S. defense official said the transfers were completely legitimate and did not require President Obama or the State Department to sign off on the matter. Nevertheless, a new order has been issued which requires that every request by the Israeli military be evaluated separately and subject to the approval of the White House and State Department. That edict prompted an editorial in the New York Post to ask, what kind of ally refuses to send desperately needed weapons when you're smack in the middle of a war? The IDF's operation against Hamas terrorists in Gaza has left high-level American officials believing that Prime Minister Netanyahu and his security cabinet are reckless. For their part, Israeli authorities consider the current U.S. administration weak and naive when it comes to the Middle East.
The Hamas war of terror demonstrates Israel's need to come up with an effective way to detect tunnels running from Gaza under the border into Israel. The Israeli defense establishment is now conducting operational tests of a new system that is designed to sense when terrorists are digging the underground passages. It also needs to be able to sound an alarm when terrorists are inside existing tunnels. The program is estimated to cost between 1.5 and 2.5 billion shekels. If the technology proves successful, it could be operational in about a year. Meanwhile, the Gulf state of Qatar has pledged to donate $1,000 to each Palestinian family whose home was destroyed during Operation Protective Edge. Hamas authorities in Gaza claim that 797 homes were completely demolished during the conflict. The oil-rich Kingdom of Qatar has been one of the biggest financial backers of the Hamas terrorist rulers of Gaza.
Thousands of Israelis packed Rabin Square in Tel Aviv in a show of support for communities in southern Israel that are on the front line of Hamas rocket attacks. The event was organized by mayors and municipal leaders of towns near the Gaza border who expressed their frustration with living under the constant threat of mortar and rocket fire. Prime Minister Netanyahu met with the leaders ahead of the rally and told them that the government would continue to work to neutralize the threat from the terrorist rulers of Gaza. Alon Davidi, the mayor of Sderot, a town that has been bombarded with 10,000 rockets over the last 10 years, said he had full confidence in the government and the army, but he added that residents are fed up with assurances and declarations and they want the job finished once and for all.
Israel's Shin Bet security service has thwarted a diabolical plan by Hamas to seize control of the Palestinian Authority in Judea and Samaria. The scheme is believed to have been hatched by Hamas terrorists who have been given safe haven in Turkey. Investigators say that Hamas planned to carry out a series of murderous attacks on Israeli targets in order to instigate a third intifada, or Palestinian uprising. The terrorist organization would then take advantage of the violence to topple the Fatah-ruled Palestinian Authority. Israeli security forces arrested 93 Hamas operatives, confiscated 24 automatic rifles, 6 handguns, 7 rocket-propelled grenade launchers, a large quantity of ammunition, and $600,000 that was to be used to purchase safe houses and vehicles. Terror cells were created in 46 Palestinian towns and villages, including Jenin, Nablus, Hebron, and Ramallah, as well as in eastern Jerusalem. Palestinian engineering and chemistry students were recruited for the operation. Authorities say that the Turkish government of Recep Tayyip Erdogan and top Hamas terror boss Khalid Mashal, who's been hiding out in Qatar, were aware of the operation. The investigation began in May, but has been under a gag order until recently. After hearing details of the plan, PA President Mahmoud Abbas ordered his own security team to investigate the matter. Abbas said that the information could severely impact the unity accord signed between Fatah and Hamas in June. He described it as a grave threat with regional implications. The plan was similar to one that Hamas used in 2007 when it staged a bloody coup in Gaza, which resulted in the Palestinian Authority being expelled from the enclave.
The Anti-Defamation League has recorded a dramatic surge in anti-Semitic incidents worldwide since the beginning of Operation Protective Edge. Among those leading the Israel bashing in Europe is Ireland, where more than half a dozen pro-Palestinian demonstrations have been staged in the past few weeks. The latest rally saw Irish protesters surround the Israeli embassy in Dublin. Rabble-rousers demanded that Israel's ambassador to Ireland be expelled, and they called for a boycott of Israeli goods. In other European cities, Jewish synagogues have been attacked, Jewish cultural centers vandalized, and individual Jews beaten on the street.
British Jews were outraged after a Sainsbury grocery store in London removed kosher products from the shelves. The manager defended his actions by saying that he was afraid anti-Israel protesters would attack his shop. The Jewish community described the store's action as anti-Semitic and said that the manager should have called the police and not given in to racists. They said there is a difference between kosher food and the State of Israel. A spokesman for the Sainsbury chain supported the branch manager and claimed that the removal of kosher items is only a temporary measure.
Evangelical Christians are standing steadfast with Israel during the Hamas war of terror. This past week, Dr. Jerry Johnson, President and CEO of the U.S.-based National Religious Broadcasters Association, led a diverse group of Christian leaders to Israel to show their support and friendship to the Jewish state and to counter growing anti-Semitism and biased reporting from the international media. Johnson said Christians understand Israel's right to defend itself from terrorists seeking to destroy it. Among those accompanying Johnson were Richard Land, president of Southern Evangelical Seminary, Billy Graham's daughter Anne Graham Lotz, and Tony Perkins, president of Family Research Council. Perkins stressed that Christians need to thank the Jewish people for our faith and to pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
While most of the world obsesses over Israel's defensive war against Hamas, the Islamic State, formerly known as ISIS, continues to murder at will. The fanatic Islamists claim to have beheaded U.S. journalist James Foley, who went missing nearly 2 years ago, and they are now threatening to murder another American journalist, Steven Sotloff, who disappeared in Syria last year, if the U.S. military continues to attack IS fighters in Iraq. This comes after reports that the terrorist army massacred 80 Yazidi men and boys who refused to convert to Islam. They also abducted their wives and children. The IS gunmen took the males away in groups of a few dozen and shot them dead on the edge of the Kocho village. And in a related incident, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights is reporting that the Islamic State terrorists executed 700 people in eastern Syria. Most of the victims, who belong to the Al-Shaitat tribe, were beheaded. Meanwhile, a top security official in France now says that nearly 900 Muslim citizens of his country have joined the Islamic State and other jihadist groups fighting in the Middle East. This development supports information supplied by the U.S. intelligence sources, revealing that the Islamic State has been working hard to recruit foreign fighters to carry out terror attacks abroad. The same officials are warning that the radical Sunni group is running sleeper cells around the world and is planning on launching major attacks against targets in the United States and Europe. Retired U.S. Army Colonel Derek Harvey said that the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda are competing for jihadi leadership and that U.S. President Barack Obama is severely underestimating the Islamic State forces.
Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif said there is little chance of reaching an agreement with the West regarding Tehran's rogue nuclear program by the November deadline. The hardline Islamic Republic has for several years successfully stonewalled world powers. In July, the P5+1 nations, Britain, France, Russia, China, the United States, and Germany, extended their last deadline after both sides were unable to reach agreement. The main sticking point is how much uranium Iran will be allowed to enrich. And in a related matter, President Hassan Rouhani told the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency that the issue of Iran's long-range missile program is non-negotiable. Western intelligence agencies believe that Iran, which is one of the world's largest exporters of terrorism, is working feverishly to upgrade its long-range missiles in order to be able to deliver a nuclear warhead to Europe and the United States.
And that concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein, and we're here on a beautiful day in Jerusalem on our rooftop studio. My guest today is Sarah Halevi, Director of Communications for Energia Global. Sarah, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Tell our viewers a little bit about what is Energia Global.
Energia Global is an Israeli company that develops commercial scale, utility scale solar fields in underserved populations in developing nations. Our main focus is Africa. And we also have some projects we're developing in the island nations and here in the neighborhood, which is still confidential and in the early stages, but mostly 80 to 90% of our work will be in Africa.
Well, we're known as a startup nation. We come up with technologies. Every other day there's probably a company sold. What makes your technology ahead of the class?
It's an excellent question. The technology itself is not unique. We build PV photovoltaic solar fields, commercial scale solar fields, which are used all over the world. And they're in California and Nevada, you can see a great number of them. Here in Israel, we have a number of them which are built by our parent company, the Arava Power Company. What's unique about us is that we have an additional message that we bring with our work, in that we have what we like to call the quadruple bottom line. We have a for-profit model, and so we make money for our investors, our shareholders, and it's a very profitable endeavor. In addition to that, we have the obvious environmental impact of what we're doing, clean, renewable energy in places that are using the dirtiest and most expensive fuels, diesel, and just tragic implications for the planet. And then we have a humanitarian benefit in that we're serving populations that don't have adequate food, water, healthcare, literacy. All of these things depend on a steady stream of electricity, which we aren't really used to thinking of in that way. And it's good for Israel to be bringing what we know how to do best, the startup nation, the cutting edge of everything, to places that really need it, where we can really make a difference in the world.
Israel always tries to be a light onto the nations. Your company did something pretty remarkable in Rwanda recently. Tell us a little bit about that.
Our first project to close is in an 8.5 megawatt commercial scale solar field in Rwanda. It's outside of the capital of Kigali. We started in Rwanda really because 20 years after the genocide, we wanted to do something. The CEO, Yosef Abramowitz, was very connected to the idea of working in Rwanda. And he connected with a woman whose name is Anne Heyman, and She passed away recently, very tragically, in an accident. She founded, outside of Kigali, a youth village called the Agahoza Shalom Youth Village. It was based on an Israeli model of youth villages that were built to take care of orphans following the Holocaust here in Israel. She came and studied that model, and she created a youth village in Rwanda to care for the orphans of Rwanda. And we then partnered with them. We have built this field. It will, with God's help, be ready to go to interconnection in the end of the summer. It's very, very exciting. On the grounds of the orphanage, they rent the land to us. So they have a steady income stream from the lease agreement for 25 years. And the people of Rwanda have an increase of 8% of their generation capacity. We'll be connected to the national grid. So it is a very unique project. We are the first commercial scale solar field in Eastern and Sub-Saharan Africa. Outside of South Africa, we're the first.
This model of generating profits yet helping the indigenous community, is this something that is financially stable?
Also an interesting question. The financing is very complex for these projects. This project in Rwanda is financed by FMO and Norfund and the U.S. government, OPIC, the Overseas Private Investment Corp. This is a stable and profitable model because the scale is so big and there's such a diverse portfolio. So in the long term, yes, it's profitable.
You know, something interesting was that the chairman of the company actually ran for president. Yosef Abrams ran for the president of Israel. How do you see that impact in Israeli society as a business leader running for president?
Yes, it's an interesting idea. Yosef was the first independent candidate ever to run for president in Israel. I think that it can only be a good thing in terms of brand equity, that Israel has trouble managing its reputation abroad, as you might have noticed from the whole BDS movement and what we've seen just recently in the UN. And so the more good we can do in the world, the better it is for Israel. And Yosef, as president, who speaks very clearly about not just renewable energy, but also religious diversity and things that will make our nation stronger, will create a stronger brand for the state of Israel.
Sarah, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
The message that I would like to give is that, speaking from the startup nation, Israel has been a leader in innovation in everything from inventing the cell phone technology to Rummikub to now what could be revolutionary cures for cancer and preventative vaccines. The list is endless. And my message is, and our company's message is, that it's not enough just to invent the next cool thing, that we need to take all of our innovative energy and use it to make the world better. And we are so capable of that, if we can keep that in mind. And I think that is the best way to serve God and to serve the world in general, is to use the gifts that we have, that we're endowed with, for good.
Thank you for Sarah for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
This is Jerusalem, Israel's capital city. It's an ancient and modern treasure that is beyond belief. There's a little bit of Israel in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
Up next, shining light from Israel.
Hamas does not care about the lives of Palestinians. They don't care about their own lives. They consider dying for the sake of their ideology a way of worship.
Where is Khalid Mashal? Where are they? Their children are studying abroad.
The tears shed on the land of Gaza. Who caused them? Israel or Hamas? The instigator should take responsibility for what they had started.
Hamas is not seeking coexistence and compromise. Hamas is seeking conquest and taking over.
I say again and again and again, we will not recognize Israel. Our doctrine in fighting you is that we will totally exterminate you. We will not leave a single one of you alive.
Anywhere else, this would be a vacation by a lake. But this is the Sea of Galilee. The wonders of Israel are beyond belief. There's a little bit of Israel in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
We are here in Haifa at the International Christian Embassy's home for Holocaust survivors. And let me tell you, this house here in Haifa is one of the most exciting projects which the Christian Embassy has undertaken over the past couple of years.
The ICEJ's home for Holocaust survivors consists of 9 buildings in one Haifa neighborhood. This small community serves as a haven of love and security for more than 70 elderly Israelis who survived the Nazi campaign of genocide. Thanks to the consistent giving of Christians just like you, we are able to provide these precious survivors with everything they need. The facilities currently include a synagogue, a medical and dental clinic, and an intensive care wing.
During the 65 years of the existence of the State of Israel, this is the best thing that Christians and Jews have done together. It's beautiful. It's all about this mutual giving and serving. Christians and Jews together. The media loves this. They appreciate the social solidarity that the Christians express towards the Jewish people, and of course towards Holocaust survivors, who right now are in the last decades of their lives. So we need to appreciate them now.
We invite you to partner with us in this important work in Haifa by making a donation today. Your donation will assist us with providing for the day-to-day operational costs at the home. Roughly $1,250 per month per person is what it costs to provide for the basic needs of the residents. Your giving will make a significant difference in the lives of these beautiful people. So please consider how you can financially support us in this important project.
Our goal is to have 150 survivors residing here, maybe even 200 Holocaust survivors. In this very moment, there are more than 1,000 survivors who have registered. I hope that the assistance of the Christian Embassy will be able to give everything we can to these people.
We go outside to eat in the restaurants, we go to the sea. We go to the theater, yes, lectures from the outside. And the food is still good. It is all excellent. Here I have friends, and I'm feeling here good. I am happy here. No?
If you have been supporting our project in the past, I want to personally thank you, because through your help we could host more than 70 Holocaust survivors in our home in Haifa. And as you well understand, once the house was completed, we are still challenged with ongoing running cost of this center in Haifa. And I want to encourage you to please consider to help us with the ongoing cost, but also with the cost to expand that center even more. You need to know that this home in Haifa has an incredible impact in Israel and also in the city of Haifa. Countless dignitaries came to visit us in this center. The media were reporting about what Christians are doing to support Holocaust survivors in the land of Israel. So your donation is not just impacting the survivors, but it actually touches the entire nation of Israel. You need to know that the vision of the International Christian Embassy in Israel is to show another face of Jesus and of the church to the Jewish people. And this is exactly what our home in Haifa is accomplishing. And I want to invite you again to partner with us. We are your outstretched arms and your feet here in the land. We are your embassy here in Jerusalem. May the Lord bless you richly out of Zion.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rome.
And I'm Erin Viner, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.